Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. Happy to have all of you along for the ride with us. If you're new here to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Again, we are live every Monday night at 8 Eastern Time, breaking down Tennessee football with you guys during the season, all throughout the offseason. We don't disappear just because Tennessee football is no longer playing. So y'all be sure to like the video, share it to your friends, and again, subscribe to the channel. Helps you get close to a lot of Tennessee football content that you enjoy. Really helps us out too in our channel's growth. Hope all of you guys had a wonderful weekend. Hope you guys are enjoying the spring crossover season in the Tennessee Athletics realm. The baseball team got started this past weekend, got the sweep on Nichols. They have another game tomorrow against UNC Asheville. Jordan, I actually have a question for you because you seem to know a lot about former NFL players from the late 2000s into the early 2010s. Does the running back Chris Brown ring a bell to you at all?
Yeah, the one that used to play for the Titans briefly.
So his son, Blaine Brown, is the two-hole hitter for Tennessee in 2026. Physically imposing specimen. I think he and Henry Ford, who's the leadoff guy, they both go out 6'5". By the way, because we've heard Tennessee hype up guys as potential two-way players in the past, like Marcus Phillips on last year's team was one of them, but we never got to see him hit. Well, guess what? We're going to get to see Blaine Brown pitch tomorrow night against UNC Asheville, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
So Tennessee's got their own Shohei Ohtani is what I'm hearing.
I don't know if I'd go there, but he's pretty athletic. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from this team so far. Yes, great day for Tennessee athletics on Saturday. You had the win in both games of the doubleheader, got the sweep on the series. Tennessee ended up winning against LSU on Saturday in basketball. They won both their games this past week. Not that either of those teams are phenomenal, LSU or Mississippi State. David, I'm assuming this means softball because the women's basketball team lost this weekend, although they did kind of curb stomp Kelly Harper earlier in the week. So I guess nice to beat the one that you fired to get your current coach. And not that Texas is a horrible loss either, just because they ended up – they're the number 4 team in the country. And yes, it is softball. That is number 1. They had a terrific weekend. Again, shout out to our buddy Charlie Collier, who's been on the call for those games while Brian Rice is doing the women's basketball team right now. And covering all their games. So fun time to watch some Tennessee athletics, even though there's no football on the TV. A lot of different sports you can watch right now. Yeah, some of us did. I don't think there's any real ill will toward Kelly just because she's a former player and obviously from a great era of Tennessee women's basketball, but just was not meant for the job, I think is the best way to put it after having watched those seasons. Obviously cares a lot about the program. I think still cares a lot about the program. But I just think everyone deep down knew this was not going to be it for her in terms of a future destination. So, and yeah, Blaine Brown is a dude. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs in that Saturday doubleheader, 2 in one game. And then he started that second end of the doubleheader with 1. So lots of fun players to watch on this baseball team. It's a pretty new-looking team this year overall. You got some transfers. In fact, all but one of the starting pitchers on the weekend is a transfer. Tegan Coons is your only returning guy because you got Landon back from Rutgers and then Evan Blanco coming in as well. So it's a fun time. It's a fun time for Tennessee athletics. Anytime you get the crossover season, always fun to welcome those new seasons in. All right, so let's get to the football. And David has alluded to this already in the chat, but the Joey Aguilar ruling is coming soon. I'm sure you guys probably noticed in the title that I said Aguilar ruling or Joey's ruling, something to that effect. We don't have a ruling just yet. It will come soon, again, hopefully by Wednesday. The judge did say in short order during the hearing was when they were expected to know. He said he couldn't make a decision from the bench. And it was really interesting on Friday to get to watch the stream of that court case just because, you know, courts – and Jordan and I were talking about this before the show began. But some courts have different policies for like what they allow you to do. Like, for example, the Charles Bediako case, and then the NIL case Tennessee was involved in 2024. They did not allow any phones in the courtroom of any kind to tweet out live updates or anything. But for this case, you had like full-on live streams of it. Like WBIR had a stream on its, I think its sports page. I don't know if the channel itself was streaming it or not, but got to watch that. And I understand not wanting to watch it because, legal proceedings are not exactly the most fun thing for a sports fan to try and watch after, so many seasons of watching them. But it is kind of fascinating to see that side of it, though, just because it's not something you hear about all the time.
Yeah, I mean, from what you were like telling me about it, you didn't think that there's a good chance that Joey Aguilar's coming back next season, right?
Okay, so this is just completely based on what I saw. All right. There was a moment in particular that stood out to me in that court case where Cam Norris, the guy who's representing Joey in the case, was being asked about what market of people is being affected and who is missing out on these opportunities. And they were pretty much unable to define the market. They did a good job in some of the other stuff. It's funny. They talked a lot about whiskey and pork. I was laughing about that with my parents.
That's how you know it's a Tennessee court case right there.
I was laughing about that with my parents last night because we were eating pork tenderloin for dinner. And it's just like, I never thought I'd hear so much about pork in one weekend, but here we are just talking about the pork producers versus California case as something that relates to interstate commerce with Joey. And then there was something there's something else I noticed, but I'm blanking on it at the moment about different court cases. But that whole thing was interesting just to see that side of it, how cases that are not related to sports somehow relate to that case. I won't say I didn't pay attention to media law because I did well in the class in college. However, my experience in that class made me want to forget it existed. All of that said, we never had any classes at UT, to my knowledge, in the journalism realm to really learn and get an understanding about some of these cases in sports law, which I think would be really fascinating to learn more about. And David mentions this in the comments, and this is something that I definitely thought watching this did not seem biased at all. And that was one of my key observations from the case. Like, obviously, the Bediako thing, it was public knowledge that he was a six-figure donor and a season ticket holder. Like, I think he had courtside seats to Alabama basketball games. So the NCAA asked the judge to recuse himself. And obviously, he's a law graduate of Tennessee, so and has season tickets. And there's a lot of mutual respect, I think, between both parties because Taylor Askew, who was the NCAA's attorney in this case, he's a Tennessee law grad. We talked about him last week just a little bit. Played football at Tennessee Tech. In fact, there was kind of a funny moment in that hearing where he was asked by the judge about his most memorable experience as a college football player, and it was when he gave up 3 sacks to Geno Atkins between the hedges. But no, he was very appreciative of everything Joey had done. He's like, this is an incredible young man. He is going to go down as a hero in Tennessee athletics, but we as a state can do things the right way, I think was his whole premise. I have seen multiple different people say that they don't really have a strong opinion on how the case played out one way or the other. To me, though, I just, again, I go back to that moment where they're asking about the market and they're unable to define the market. And I don't know if that is going to bode well with Joey in this case.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's unfortunate if he doesn't end up getting granted this additional year of eligibility. I mean, especially looking right down the road and seeing Ole Miss being able to retain Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, I think a lot of Tennessee's coaching staff had high hopes on Joey returning, or maybe not high hopes, but, they're kind of banking on it considering that Tennessee didn't get a prominent transfer portal quarterback. But, I mean, based on what you've said and everything, I mean, it looks like George McIntyre is going to be the guy moving forward, unless Faison Brandon just has an outstanding camp this offseason and somehow is able to impress the coaching staff into playing. But I mean, I think Tennessee's still in solid hands overall, even like without Joey Aguilar. Like, I think Joey takes it to the next level, of course. I mean, his experience, I mean, he did some good things throughout the season, put up some pretty good numbers, especially in the passing yards category. But you know, I mean, George McIntyre was once a 5-star for a reason. And everything I've seen from his high school film, I mean, he seems to have a pretty good deep ball. I mean, we don't know how that'll translate to when he ends up becoming a full-time starter at Tennessee. But I mean, that's one thing that Tennessee was able to really find success with when they had Hendon Hooker there. So, I mean, if he could replicate even like a third of what Hendon Hooker was able to do as far as being able to throw the ball downfield, then I think Tennessee can be in good hands. And not to mention, Tennessee's returning one of the best wide receiver cores in the country. So, I mean, it's not like he's going to be out there and be lost.
You mentioned Trinidad there for a second too, and I think it's important to clarify those are two very, very different cases. This one, talk about short order. It was within a day that they made the decision on Trinidad. But it's funny. I've seen Mississippi State and LSU fans complaining about how, oh, he has sleep apnea. I have sleep apnea for my entire life, and that's why he shouldn't be eligible. No, it's a different kind of case just because there's medical stuff involved there. Joey is not the case, and I just think – I think for the safety of the sport overall, and when I say safety, I mean like keeping it as close to amateurism as possible while still paying players, opening the Pandora's box of unlimited or JUCO years not counting against you, rather, and then essentially allowing guys to play college football up until they're 27, 28 years old. Not a good precedent set in some cases. In fact, in most cases, unless there's just, again, you could maybe point to the Trinidad case as a reference there with a guy being potentially injured. But I think for college football's sake, it could be best if this thing does not get upheld in Joey's favor.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, it's just like just knowing that Tennessee could take a bigger step this season with Joey Aguilar is the one thing that kind of hurts about the situation. And I mean, we saw last season what Vanderbilt was able to do when Diego Pavia returned. I mean, he pretty much single-handedly carried that team and almost led them to a playoff appearance. So, I mean, I think that Tennessee could have had even better success than Vanderbilt had last season with Joey Aguilar at helm. I mean, especially with the offensive line as well. I mentioned the receivers earlier, but I mean, Tennessee's essentially returning their entire offensive line, and they got Gabriel Ascenda coming in here as a true freshman 5-star. So, I mean, I like what Tennessee's offense has to offer, and but I do agree with you that we do got to try to keep it more amateur when it comes to college sports, because I mean, there's been so much change since around 2020. I mean, the transfer portal and all of that, NIL becoming a prominent thing now to where you can pay players. I mean, the more time goes on, it seems like not Tennessee, but college football is starting to become like minor league to the NFL at this point. And it's just kind of unfortunate because I feel like a lot of this tradition that we've seen in college football started to die a little bit, especially with the expanded playoffs. Like I've mentioned several times before with the bowl games not seeming as important. And, you can't really, there's not as many legends like that you remember coming out of college because they play for like 2 or 3 different teams. I mean, Tennessee's been able to take advantage of that with some players like Colton Hood and Jermod McCoy, even Hendon Hooker for that matter. But I mean, it's just not the same as it used to be when you would have a player at least play there for 3 years and, leave his stamp on the game. I mean, it's just a completely different sport than we watched when we were growing up.
Yeah, do the Kellen Moores of the world exist?
Yes.
If it's not for the lack of a transfer portal in college football, that's something that you always got to wonder about. Like, would those guys have been on the move back then? And I think you do have to, again, you have to try and keep this as close to amateur as possible, just because I think if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of fan interest. And I think it's already a little bit of a problem. It's not completely out of control yet, but when you try to create a tournament sport with a sport that is not a tournament sport, it makes it harder to watch. I have a feeling. And that's kind of how I felt watching the college football playoff at times, even though I think this is the best college football playoff we've had a while, just in terms of overall quality. I mean, really the only exceptions were the two first-round games that you knew were going to be awful, and the games where Indiana blew somebody out. But when you got a team that's that good, it's going to happen from time to time. You can't always prevent the blowouts. So, but you do have to take some steps at some point. Will it be with this case? We'll find out. But you never know. Joey could get approved as well, and maybe Tennessee's offensive ceiling rises next season. So that's all we have on Joey for the moment. Again, we will discuss the ruling when it gets to us, hopefully here within the next couple of days. We were told short order, hopefully meaning within a little less than a week in this case. So moving on now, we've got several things to discuss on the news front as well that are not just Joey's case. And the first one that we've got that happened, I believe, right after our show last week was the departure of cornerbacks coach Michael Hunter to the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, what is his equivalent to like former coaches at Tennessee, like a Kevin Steele type thing?
I guess so. I mean, when that happened, that really took me by surprise. I was not expecting Tennessee to lose a coach that they just acquired.
Yeah, no. The NFL coaching cycle is a little bit different than the college one, just because you've got teams that are playing in the playoffs making their hires after the season ends, which in every case is basically into the middle of February, like we saw with Michael Hunter. But he gets hired away to the Rams. He'll be out there with Jalen McCullough, potentially Jermon McCoy or Colton Hood, depending on what the Rams decide to do in the draft, although I have seen both of those guys get mocked out there to the Rams. So surprise, absolutely. Just because when you're assembling a new staff, you're excited about the guys that you're bringing in. And clearly the recruits that he was visiting were excited about him getting the job at Tennessee. Like, he was making his whole tour around the West Coast, talking to different recruits. Little did we know that tour around the West Coast was to find houses where he could move out to in LA to go coach for the Rams. So unfortunate development. I guess when you have an NFL opportunity as a position coach, you don't pass up that opportunity. But that was a position where you were really looking to improve this season. And you may still improve with some of the recruits that you bring in this cycle, but disappointing in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just wonder how much Tennessee already had paid him at that point. You know, like, I mean, surely it wasn't like a big sum, considering that he's only been like Knoxville for like a month tops. I mean, like, I'm not sure that there was too much money thrown around, but I mean, it's disappointing to, see recruits and other players get excited about their new coach and, get to spend a little bit of time with them. And then, like, he ends up going off and leaving. Not really that great for Tennessee, but I mean, I don't think it's like the biggest loss in the world. I mean, it would be much worse if Jim Knowles just up and left, which would have been madness, but thankfully that's not the case.
Yeah, you can't afford to have a situation like that where you're basically your defensive head coach goes to another job like that to the NFL. So it's a bit disappointing, to be sure, that Michael Hunter is gone, because we'll never know what he could have been at Tennessee. But I guess we hope he does well in the NFL. Hope one of those two guys, McCoy or Hood, ends up with him. That way you have more Rams to root for in the NFL. Now, Tennessee acted fairly quick on his replacement. I believe that was within a week of the announcement. And that is, of course, Derrick Jones, the former Virginia Tech corners coach, was on Brent Pry's staff from 2022 to 2025, was not retained by Pry and James Franklin, even though Pry was the one who took over as defensive coordinator there after he had been fired by Virginia Tech, which is kind of funny that happened. But a little surprised that they didn't retain him just because that connection was already in place. And as David alludes to here, he is a Knowles prodigy as a defensive coach, worked with Duke in the Cutcliffe years over there. I'm trying to think, was it Ross Cockrell that was the DB that they had at Duke that made it for a while in the NFL?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was trying to think of that all day and I just couldn't remember who it was. But they had some decent defenses out there for what Duke's standards are. Just because, Duke is not exactly the football powerhouse that some of these other ACC teams like Miami, Clemson, and Florida State have been in the last 15 seasons. But you bring him in. He was under, I think, Matt Wells at Texas Tech for a year or two as like an associate head coach and another role as well, like Cody C, defensive backs coach out there. I'm forgetting which all the roles he was in, but he had a couple out there at Texas Tech. So obviously a guy Knowles is familiar with and somebody that if he trusts, I think we have to trust Jim Knowles on this just because Heupel has essentially said, hey, you go be the head coach for the defense and you make all these decisions. Obviously, Heupel is signing off on all of these hires. But, I think it's best that he's the one going out there and making the decisions.
Yeah, and I think it says something too, considering how quickly Tennessee ended up hiring him. And I mean, just looking at his resume, I mean, he played football at Ole Miss, or at least graduated from there, from what I can see. And he has 27 years of coaching experience, and he even coached briefly at my alma mater, MTSU, which I found was interesting. But yeah, I mean, he's put some players in the NFL, like Dorian Strong came out from his team. A couple of other guys, Isaiah Cockrell, like you mentioned, Michael Carter second. So I mean, he's done some things, but here's the one thing on the flip side is like when I first saw that Tennessee hired him on Twitter, I saw that some Virginia Tech fans were complaining about him and were like, basically have fun with him. He like messed up our defense. I don't know if they're just salty because he left or maybe Virginia Tech had a down season or two, but I was not seeing very positive responses from Virginia Tech fans.
Virginia Tech was just not good in general under Brent Pry as their head coach. Like, where did they top it? Like 7 wins, maybe one of those seasons in like 23 or 24. They were bad this year. They were bad in Pry's first year. Like this, Virginia Tech is not a historically awesome football program, just to be completely honest, because they pretty much up until Frank Beamer got there, they were near the bottom of their conference. But Beamer created a level of stability that they had never seen. And did it for so long. They hand the baton to Justin Fuente. Fuente is on a decline. I don't think they missed any bowls under Fuente, at least in every season except for 2020. But then they hire Brent Pry, which I was joking among some friends. Like it seems like a very uninspiring hire when it happens. And sure enough, it was. They had an awful record under him. And I don't know how much his defensive coaching staff is to blame. The real problem is Brent Pry is a defensive mind that they hired to do the job, and they weren't good at it to begin with. So I don't know how much of that is on Derrick Jones or just the fact that they were under horrible leadership from those years.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he wasn't actually calling the defense. I mean, I don't know what Virginia Tech's what their situation was when they're there. But I mean, it's quite hilarious, to be honest, to see a former head coach end up turning around and becoming the team's defensive coordinator. Like, I've never really seen a downgrade like that before, especially like to the same school. Like, like it's just an interesting concept to see. But, I think Derrick Jones, I mean, I think Tennessee, they should give him a chance. I mean, he's has lots of experience. I mean, this isn't his first rodeo, and plus, like, I don't know. I mean, Tennessee's found success through Jermond McCoy and Colton Hood recently, even when the defenses underperform. I mean, like, more particularly this year than the year before. But I mean, like, I think Tennessee will be just fine for the most part. I think the thing that probably hurts the most is just seeing like how many players were excited for Michael Hunter and everything, and then him end up dipping out. But I mean, I think Tennessee will be just fine.
Yeah, you have to hope that'll be the case because, again, we'll never know just because he was not here very long. But you'll hope Derrick Jones will do the job, and you got a good staff around him too, and Anthony Poindexter, and then of course Andrew Jackson and the two returning coaches from last year's defensive staff, and Rodney Garner and William Inge. So you've assembled a solid defensive staff. Now the big question is, can Derrick Jones be the successor that you didn't think he was going to have to be with Michael Hunter going out the door? So that's all we've got on coaching changes, because we had to address another one that we didn't think we were going to have to address this week. So with that, let's talk a little bit more recruiting here, Jordan, just because this has been kind of a busy week on the recruiting front for Tennessee. Should we start with the good or bad news first? I think since we were just talking about one of those positions, we should start with the bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay. Bad news this week. Tennessee's first decommitment in the 2027 class is Kamari Whitfield. As we alluded to, he is a cornerback in the position group that is seeing coaching changes. And on that note, the key reason he said was why he felt the need to decommit from Tennessee was because he was not really sure what direction the coaching staff was going in. And honestly, you can't blame him for it, because think about this. He wasn't even committed to Michael Hunter. He was committed to Willie Martinez before the fact. Like, he committed in, I want to say sometime in October. Of course, Tennessee ends up firing Martinez, letting him go. You get Michael Hunter. And then you bring in Derrick Jones, and Derrick Jones was after he had announced his decommitment. So unfortunate that is what happened there. Hate to see a guy decommit from Tennessee. But as David says, I think the answer is yes, you will find a better one. I mean, this guy's a 3-star, and he's like a top 50 cornerback in the class. So you hope Derrick Jones is a better recruiter than Willie Martinez in this case, because I think the thing that helped Tennessee in the secondary was that it was able to hit some guys in the portal with Jacoby Thomas, Jermond McCoy, and Colton Hood. The high school recruiting element of it, aside from Ricky Gibson, was not very good.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue Ty Redmond too, but I mean, like, outside of that, really, I mean, yeah, Tennessee, all their talent from defensive backs is essentially came from the transfer portal, and the safety play has been a little bit troubling as of late. But I mean, I heard that Tennessee's still not out of the mix for Kamari Whitfield, or at least that's what I saw on Twitter. But
that's what he said.
But like, I don't know, like he was just a 3-star, like you said. I will say he is from Florida though, which it's always exciting being able to steal one of those guys away from the Gators. But I mean, like, Tennessee will recover. They still got some talented pieces coming together, and who knows how this defensive staff's going to unfold. I mean, I have somewhat high hopes in Jim Knowles and what he's going to be able to bring to Tennessee. I just think it's going to take a couple of years for Tennessee to really get the ball moving with that, because apparently his defenses are pretty complex. But overall, I mean, just losing one recruit, it's still early in the recruiting cycle. I mean, Tennessee has like essentially an entire year to bulk up in that department, and I think Tennessee will be just fine.
So you mentioned the Gators. That is the team that's trending for him currently. Lots of recruits pretty impressed by what they're seeing out of John Summerall there in the early stages in Gainesville. So Orlando is what, like 2 hours from Gainesville? If you're dodging the toll roads, maybe a little more than that. So can't fault the kid for wanting to play closer to home either. And again, you can't fault him for wanting to stay out of a system that is not 100% sure of itself yet, just on the coaching front, or at the time was not. I don't know the last time Tennessee had a kid decommit and then recommit to Tennessee and stay there after signing. We thought we were going to see it with Legend Bay this year, and then the whole paperwork thing happened where it was like, oh, yeah, his mom didn't want him to sign with Ohio State, but once he turns 18, he can request release from the NLI and then sign with Ohio State. So, but I would – and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I would say at best it's like a 10% chance, maybe 5% chance that those guys decommit and then recommit to you.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood's not that great. I mean, to be honest, I mean, because like you said, I can't really recall a Tennessee player that is decommitted and recommitted. Of course, we did hope that with Legend Bay, and I was trying to gaslight myself into thinking like the rumors weren't true, even though it was fairly obvious by all the Ohio State decor and everything that was there. And then I saw things like he was commenting on TikTok saying that everything was true, and, ended up being the case. But of course, Ohio State's going to Ohio State. I mean, they're going to win those recruiting battles.
Yep. It's a shame, but it happened. But that's Tennessee's first decommit in the class. Hopefully there won't be too many of those. The only other one that I'm kind of wondering about right now is Caden Fife, because I'm seeing where he's still taking visits. And this happens with kids early on in the cycle. Like they're naturally going to take visits elsewhere just to try and gauge interest. The only ones that I think that I know are very firm at the moment, those are obviously JP Peace with the family legacy there. And then Princeton Uefo has been locked in on Tennessee since the beginning of his recruitment. So those are the two that I can say with confidence will remain committed to Tennessee through this cycle after having been associated with him early on. Let's shift over to the good news because we got some this week. David actually alluded to it here earlier in the chat. Derrick Baker, 3-star quarterback out of Milton High School in Georgia, committed to Tennessee. Jordan, your initial thoughts on Derrick Baker as a prospect?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's cool he's from Josh Dobbs's neck of the woods. Yeah. He's from Alpharetta, Georgia, just was. But, I didn't get to see too much of his film, but from what I did see, I mean, he seems to be a pretty good runner. I mean, I've seen him bounce off a couple of tackles from time to time. And, he can make throws on the run as well. Like I saw one where he did like a play action pass and it seemed to be pretty accurate. I think it was for a touchdown, but there was one highlight reel of his that really stood out. Like he's probably about 20 yards away from the end zone or something like that. And he dropped it right in the corner for a touchdown, and the receiver caught it. I mean, you couldn't throw a ball better than that. I mean, I know he's just a 3-star. Maybe that has to do with his height because he's only 6'1". But I mean, everything I saw from film, he seems to be a pretty solid player. But where does he fit in Tennessee's quarterback room, considering George McIntyre and Faison Brandon are still there? I'm not so sure. But I mean, I really liked what I saw from him on tape.
So you touched on the two things that I liked that I saw from his tape. One is his ability as a runner. That's always a plus in a college offense when you have a guy that can run the football naturally. And then the other thing that you said that I really liked is the fact that he can make throws on the run, create throws that were not there in the first place as a result of scrambling around in the backfield. He does a very good job at that on his tape. Now, there are a couple concerns for me, and he's still got time to develop, still got another year of high school football ahead of him. Here's a fun comp in the chat here.
Oh, that's a throwback.
That's a throwback. I know Jordan and I know who that guy is. That's right when we started watching it. Got it. I had to do it. I had to pull out the Gus Johnson there for a second, but there's a couple concerns. One, Jordan, you mentioned that you didn't get to see much of his film. There's a reason for that. He was injured all of last season, basically, after the first week. So did not get to play much because I kept looking around for it, and it was all freshman and sophomore year highlights. or like highlights from one game and in his sophomore season. And there was another that's at a camp. And you know how I feel about 7-on-7 camps. I don't really care what you do in 7-on-7. I want to see it when the lights are on, when there's a crowd in front of you, and there's 11 dudes on the field, not while you're running around out there.
In your pajama pants.
In your pajama. Well, in the case of one quarterback, your pajama pants, but your compression apparel, I guess, is a better way to put it. So don't particularly care for that stuff, but unfortunate that he didn't get to play much last season. I do wonder if that is contributing to that lower rating potentially. The one thing I saw on tape that worries me just a bit is that he has a lot of one read passes on that reel. Lots of plays where he's just looking for the throw and it's already there. And hey, it helps to have receivers that are that good. And I know for all you non-Tennessee fans watching this, you'll be like, well, he'll fit right into the Heupel offense. It's a one-read offense. You want quarterbacks that can move from one progression to the next. I mean, all I saw in those jamborees was him just staring down a wide receiver and then making the play immediately, just throwing at the first thing he saw, which I think I know, safeties and other defensive backs will adjust to that at the college level. That's going to happen. So, again, it comes back to he doesn't have that junior year of development in high school, so you have to wonder how much that's playing a factor into it. But he'll be back and ready to go next season, and hopefully he can add to it a little bit.
I mean, maybe some of that too was the fact that he was like a freshman, sophomore putting up these highlights. Like, maybe, I mean, also too, from my experience playing high school football, there's not a lot of throwing going on out there too. Like, so that's another thing. I mean, you probably have like 40 runs a game and then maybe 15 passes tops. But like what I did see on tape, I seem to like, but I get your concern too about the one read and everything like that. But I mean, surely he could be able to adapt. I mean, Josh Heupel's known as the quarterback whisperer. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a full season. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up moving up in recruiting. And of course, Tennessee liked him for a reason. And I don't think Josh Heupel's going out here just trying to get bad quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are going to be average. I mean, I know Tennessee did that in the transfer portal, but he was definitely just a safety plan or safety net.
Yeah, safety net that wound up being a much better quarterback than you could have ever asked for. But overall, I think the acquisition here to the class is good. Josh Heupel is a quarterback evaluating master. So I think you have to take his word for it here, just because you've not really seen bad quarterback play at Tennessee yet. So, again, you have to hope he does well in his senior year and can really show you some stuff on tape, just because it is a little bit more of a dice roll here than what we're accustomed to. And speaking of Derrick Baker's senior year, I saw this week from I think it's Shane Pickering, one of the guys who covers high school football across the state of Tennessee. You can go watch if you're in Williamson County, or if you're just in the mid-state and you want to see some high school football. Milton is coming to play at Battleground Academy in Franklin on September something. I forget when. It's like the 12th or the 13th maybe that they're coming to BGA. So if you aren't doing anything on that Friday, you can go watch your future quarterback play against the mighty BGA Wildcats.
Yeah, I mean, in high school football, man, I mean, it's very underrated to go out and see. Like when I was interning with Channel 4, I was fortunate enough to one of the events that we were going to film, George McIntyre was there playing. So I got to see him before he even went to Tennessee. And same with why am I missing on his name? DeJuan Morris too. Got to see him play a little bit as well. And it's cool getting to see those guys end up, growing up and end up becoming pretty good players. And hopefully that ends up being the case with McIntyre. But you know what? I might try to go attend that game if I don't have anything going on.
Yeah, I'm considering it too. I know this is what are we 9 months in advance of that game?
Yeah.
7 months, I guess. It's about as long as the wait as the college football season at this point. So who knows what could pop up between now and then. Um, I have still not been to a game at BGA. I've been to, I mean, having been in high school, I've been to just about all the public schools here in Williamson County, but I've not been to many of the private schools. I think I've been to one game at Brentwood Academy. I know I haven't been to one at BGA yet. I should probably make my way over there, given how much family history I have over there, even though I did not go there myself. I think the one time that I ever remember setting foot on that campus was actually when I was playing youth league football way back when, like when I was 10 years old. Maybe we were scrimmaging their like JV team or something, which was kind of crazy because I was in late elementary school at the time, and these dudes are like 6th and 7th graders going against us, or at least I think they were.
I had something similar of Lighthouse Christian. I was like, I think I was in 7th grade, and we scrimmaged against their junior varsity, and we got destroyed, man. I mean, we shouldn't be playing against these men that are going through puberty when you still like, just got done playing the toys like 2 years before.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, but yeah, go check out Derrick Baker at BGA when he comes to town in mid-September. That should be a lot of fun to watch if you're a Tennessee fan, and granted, he's still committed by that point. But usually you can hold on to the quarterbacks unless they're Jared Curtis and just slippery like that and decide to decommit to you and go to the school next to his hometown and pay however many $1 million for it. Couple more things on recruiting. We've talked about this guy in the past, Leighton Von Brandt. I think he's visiting like 4 or 5 schools this spring. I wrote something on him visiting in, I think, March. So he's taking a bunch of spring visits. The other guy that I saw pop up on the radar this week is Casey Caldwell, who's from Georgia. He's a safety out of Georgia, 4-star prospect from Parkview High School in Georgia. Jordan, which Parkview alum plays for Tennessee right now?
Tennessee alum? Oh, wait, no, Parkview alum.
Parkview alum plays for Tennessee right now. He's an offensive player.
Offensive player. Is it Staley by chance?
You're close.
Oh, I guess I see it in the comments right now. Mike Matthews?
Yes. Yes, it's Mike Matthews. He ended up going there. So maybe Mike Matthews can work his recruiting magic and get Casey Caldwell to town. Been a little too long since Tennessee signed a 4-star safety. That needs to change. He's got a commitment date on April 3rd, I think, is when he's announcing. I know Miami is in the mix, as they are with half these kids they're trying to throw NIL money at. I want to say NC State was another school in the mix. So there's a couple guys like that Tennessee's trying to chase down right now. Casey Caldwell being one of them, Leighton Von Brandt the other. Did see where Sean Tatum is basically between Tennessee, Florida, and Miami. That's another one of those offensive linemen. So this whole recruiting trail is going to heat up more as we get closer to the summertime. And yes, South Georgia, you're going to hear about all those great Georgia players. So, yeah, Mike Matthews is certainly one of those guys. Casey Caldwell will probably be that guy to whatever program he winds up at, Tennessee or anywhere else. But I think that's all we got on recruiting this week. No other significant news. But anytime you have a decommit and a commit, it's always a pretty significant recruiting week. All right. So with that, we have one more order of business on the show tonight, and that is the NFL Combine participants. They were announced last week, and that is going on, I believe, starting next week, running into March 2nd. So they unveiled the list of participants in it this year. And you got 6 Vols who are participating in the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. So always exciting to see those guys get an opportunity to showcase their skills in front of NFL organizations. I guess we'll go in position by position order, starting on the offense, shifting over to the defense. Offense, spoiler alert, has less participants than the defense in this year's combine. Starting off, you've got Chris Brazzell among the wide receivers this year. And this is a guy that we've seen get mocked as early as like the second or third round of the NFL draft. Like we've seen him in the day 2 mocks. Some people are crazy enough to put him in the first round. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's going to stand out that much to NFL organizations. Although I do think, and there is a portion of the combine that is about interviews with teams, and I don't know how he will do in that process. I'm not saying that he won't do well, and it's just more up for their interpretation of what kind of person they look at him as. Would they like to have him in the organization? That said, the first thing you think of when the combine is the measurables. Everybody looks at that 40-yard dash. You look at the shuttle run, vertical jump, all that fun stuff. You look at all the measurables in the combine. Chris Brazzell, far away, is going to be the player that I think will be most impressive for Tennessee in this combine with the measurables. Goes about 6'5", 200, but he's fast. He's got an element of speed to him that a lot of those guys simply do not have. And, of course, at 6'5", you would expect some verticality too. So, for those reasons, I am very, very interested to see what he does in the combine next week.
Yeah, and you would have to imagine, if he ends up running like a sub 4.4 40-yard dash, which I know is a stretch, but if he's able to pull that off, I mean, I think that his stock's going to jump significantly. And, I think he can have a pretty solid NFL career depending on where he ends up going. Like, I think that he was pretty good at contested catches at times. I mean, he's a deep ball threat. And I mean, he was Tennessee's leading receiver last year, and for good reason. But it's really interesting to see what he ends up doing in terms of, like the 40-yard dash, the vertical jump, and everything like that. Because like I said, I think if he knocks it out of the park with that, then I think people are going to get excited about him because, every single year, I mean, whether or not it ends up panning out for these players or not, sometimes players get drafted higher than they should based on their measurables. And the first person that comes to mind when I think of that is John Ross and everything when he was able to do what he did. And, like, look how his career ended up turning out. But I mean, who knows? I mean, I think that, his size is definitely going to catch people's eyes for sure. I mean, he's got to be like probably I don't know if there's any wide receivers that are going to be 6'6". We'll see if he actually is 6'5", because, teams like to fluff up some of the numbers. But
Vanderbilt.
You said Vanderbilt. Yeah, oh man. Oh, that is egregious though, what they did with Diego Pavia. They said he was like 6'1", and he's like our height.
Yeah, he's like 5'9". He's like you and me. Yeah, he's not that tall. That's another player I'm interested to watch in the combine, just because he could fail miserably in the interview process and ruin his career. That will make or break him without a doubt. I don't think the measurables are as interesting there, as eye-catching to some of those NFL organizations. Moving on down the list here, this is a guy that I think will probably kill it in the interview process, but I don't know how impressed people are going to be by his on-field measurables. And that, of course, is tight end Miles Kitselman. He has, time and time again, when he was at Tennessee, he was thought of as like this locker room leader, your proverbial coach on the field when he was at Tennessee. And, those are admirable qualities. Maybe that's something that gets some of these organizations to look into him. But the on-field play, it's okay. I don't know if they'll be blown away.
Well, especially because his numbers took a dip this past season too. I mean, he only got 2 touchdowns last year. And I don't know. I mean, he was even rated like a 90 overall, I think, in EA Sports' college football at one point. And I'll tell you, from what I saw on the field from him, He was not deserving
90
of the rating
overall.
at all. Yeah, he was like a 90 overall. He was like one of Tennessee's like highest rated players. Like outside of Jermon McCoy, I think he was the highest like heading into the season. But I mean, he dropped a lot of passes last year, and we've spoke about it before. Like he inadvertently caused, you could argue, upwards of like 3 interceptions for Joey Aguilar. And I just don't know. Like he's going to run that quick of a 40-yard dash. I don't know if he's going to have a vertical that jumps out to people, but I think what I really want to see is how he does in these drills. I want to see how he goes out there and runs routes and makes catches, because I mean his drops were quite an issue last season.
Yeah. Yeah, they were problematic last year. And yeah, at least 3 interceptions that come to mind when I think of it. One's not entirely his fault. 2 of them definitely are. Um, so, but maybe teams fall in love with him in the interview process. We'll see how that goes for him. Probably the most surprising invite that I saw on there of these former Tennessee players. But that's all you've got on the offensive side of the ball. Shifting over to the defense, you've got a couple linemen participating in this. First one you've got on the defensive end is Josh Josephs. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but we've seen him as high as a day 2 pick in some of these mocks. And I think that he was in the cheetah package at Tennessee as a defensive end and places with James Pierce as a guy that you could stick out there, but be a little bit quicker, a little more nimble coming off the defensive end. I think that's something that will attract teams to him in this NFL Combine. And, unfortunate this year that injuries got in the way of some of his production. But if he gets that figured out, I think he can go on and have a nice NFL career, starting out as like a 3rd-round pick coming into the league.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a huge fan of Josh Josephs for a while, and I think that he can have an excellent NFL career as long as, like, he can stay healthy and everything. But, like, upon reviewing his stats, I saw a couple of things that stood out that I didn't realize. Like, he has 9 career pass deflections at Tennessee, and these past 2 seasons, he got 3 each year. I mean, he's also pretty good at stripping the ball away from defenders. He had a touchdown this past season. I think that he could like do pretty good in the NFL depending on where he goes. And you've seen how some of these Tennessee defensive ends have came out lately, like Byron Young. He's starting to really heat up in the NFL, and like he had a pretty great season. I think he had like something like 12 sacks or something along those lines. And Rodney Gardner, he always gets the best out of all of his players. So I mean, I think that I don't know where he'll end up getting drafted. I don't know which round, but I think he'll have pretty good success, and we'll end up seeing what his 40-yard dash time and everything like that ends up being. I don't think he'll like blow people away with his strength measurables. Like something just tells me that I don't think he's going to do like phenomenal, like the bench press or anything like that, but I could be wrong. But I am excited to see what his 40-yard dash time is going to be, and see, like maybe his broad jump, see how explosive he can be.
Yeah, I think he's one of the more interesting players to watch from Tennessee going into this combine, just because of some of those agility things. You think a lot about agility when you think about the combine. 40-yard dash will be another interesting one to watch, just because we know he's a little bit quicker than the average defensive end. Moving on, Bryson Eason, also coming to the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. He was a Senior Bowl participant. I didn't hear much about what he did other than the club that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago after the Senior Bowl. I'll be curious to see what ends up happening with him there, because he was never a guy that really jumped out at me when he was at Tennessee. We've said this before, but sometimes the guys that don't jump out to you when they're in college end up having phenomenal careers, and you don't even realize it. Like, famous example of this, not everybody's like him. In fact, most people are not like him, and that is Tom Brady. Not by any means an extraordinary quarterback when he was at Michigan, yet he went on to have maybe the greatest career of all time in the NFL. And I think most people would argue that he did. So not to say that Bryson Eason is anything like that on the defensive line. We don't know what will end up happening with him. We'll see what the teams think of him. That's kind of an interesting invite to the combine. One of the more interesting ones of everybody there.
Well, last season or last NFL draft, I was surprised that Omar Norman Lott went as high as he did, because I think he ended up going in the second round, and I was not expecting that. And I don't know if Bryson Eason is going to be someone that gets drafted. I think one thing that kind of counts against him is the fact that he's been in college for 6 seasons. So, the age is going to be somewhat of a concern, but I think that he can excel at some things during the combine. Like everything I saw from him playing at Tennessee, he seemed to be a pretty strong player. So I'm really excited to see what that bench press number's looking like, because I feel like he'll be able to pump out some reps. And like he's pretty good whenever he was on the field. I mean, he got, I think, 4.5 tackles for a loss this season. Probably a lot of that has to do with his experience as well. But congratulations on him making it to the combine, because I didn't think he would, to be honest.
Yeah, he's had recognition in multiple of these events, combine for one, and then, of course, the Senior Bowl being the other one. So we'll see how he does. Again, not one that I was expecting, but as a result of not expecting it, it's kind of made me wonder what he ends up doing there in the combine. Last two here for us on the combine, and I don't think these should surprise any of us that they're there, just because they are far and away the two highest projected picks in this draft from the Tennessee roster. First and foremost, Jermon McCoy at corner. I think the reason I'm most interested to watch him is because when's the last time that anyone in the media saw him do any kind of physical activity? That Ohio State game? Probably.
Has to be.
Yeah. Like, unless somebody got a video of him, like, getting loose or something in a practice and, I don't know, maybe stretching or something. Like, we haven't really gotten to see him do any of this stuff since he blew out his ACL. So I'm just curious for that reason. I don't know how he'll test exactly, but, how well does he move? And this is his first time in front of a crowd of people, if you will, at the combine, as opposed to, just rehabbing this offseason on his own time.
Well, I just hope that he participates in most of the drills and everything like that. Like, surely he'll do the 40-yard dash and everything like that. But I mean, I've noticed that a lot of players have opted out of things like bench presses and stuff like that. And I feel like the combine is one thing that could potentially hurt Jermon McCoy, considering if he's not as shifty as he used to be. I mean, he's already projected to go in the first round. So I don't know how much there is for him to gain from the combine. I mean, if anything, I feel like it could hurt his chances, but it will be very interesting to see how he's able to move around, because I think that's got to be the biggest question with him. I mean, you tear your ACL. I know in this modern era, people have been able to come back from it better and quicker than ever. Like, we saw what Adrian Peterson was able to accomplish after he tore his ACL. I'm pretty sure that following season he ended up winning MVP, and I think I think his recovery time is only something like 4 to 6 months. So, I mean, modern medicine has been able to make things easier for people that deal with injuries like that. But I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him in terms of his mobility. And I'm sure he's taken the proper measures. I mean, obviously he sat out this entire season from Tennessee when there was speculation, I think, of him coming back, even all the way back to the Arkansas game. But he chose not to, or they didn't want to play him, or whatever it might be. I'm sure he'll be fresh and ready to go by then, but I don't know if it really improves his draft stock.
Yeah, I don't know if it does either. And to your point on Adrian Peterson, that's the first time that I think most people can remember that an ACL tear was not this career death sentence. And hopefully for Jermon McCoy, it's not. But I can tell you, though, that a lot of players that come off those tears, they're not the same. So you hope McCoy can have some semblance to what he was. Lastly, you've got Colton Hood, a guy that we've been talking about for a while now. A lot of people impressed with what he's been able to do as a corner in his 1 year at Tennessee. A lot of people impressed by him at the Senior Bowl. A lot of people saying that now he can slide into the first round of the NFL draft, potentially go as high as the middle of the first round, although I've seen a lot of drafts projecting him as number 32 to the Seahawks. So one that I think a lot of NFL franchises are going to be interested in just because it's a name that they've heard going near the top of the draft.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's got a chance to really showcase what makes him so great, and that's like his athleticism. I mean, I've talked countless times on the show before, like, once he gets a ball in his hand, like he's dangerous. I mean, he can take it to the house, whether it's a fumble recovery, whether it's an interception. He had 2 touchdowns this past season. And when he was at Colorado, he was 13th in the country in interception return yards, and that was as a backup corner. I think that he can probably excel in a lot of these drills. I'm excited to see his 40 time because he seemed pretty quick when he was at Tennessee. But I think that he's an all player. I mean, not just in coverage. I think that, he's a good playmaker. I think he has good instincts as a football player. And I'm really excited to see what he has to do. I mean, I think that if he excels in this combine, then he might even go higher than towards the end of the first round. And I think the sky's the limit for Colton Hood.
Yeah, you've been on the Colton Hood train pretty much since Tennessee's gotten him. So, hopefully he does very well. One of the few gifts of the spring portal period for Tennessee last year, obviously Joey Aguilar was one, but that was kind of a necessary gift after what happened with Nico. But Colton Hood coming over was a little bit of a surprise, but one, you welcome with open arms, and you like what he did this year for Tennessee. And clearly a lot of NFL teams are very high on him going into this draft. But that's about all we got on combine participants. Those are all 6 of the guys that were invited this year for Tennessee. Jordan, am I missing anything that happened this past week?
Yeah, it was one of the most shocking news pieces I've gotten in sports in quite a while. I was just sitting here in my room, and then I happened to get an ESPN notification, and it says that President Donald Trump he pardoned Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry of prior drug charges, which I wasn't even aware of that history. And I looked into it a little bit. It's kind of crazy that they were doing that stuff while they were playing in the NFL, because it's seemingly nothing to gain, especially Jamal Lewis. Like, he was fresh off a Super Bowl, I think, not long after all that ended up happening. But I was like, wow. I never expected to hear Travis Henry's name in some kind of news piece story coming out. So that was quite a shock to me.
Yeah, I guess good for those guys for getting pardons. I saw where their names were mentioned in it. I didn't look too much further into it, but good for them, I guess. I know it's one of the Travises that got in a lot of trouble. I forget which one. It's either Henry or Stevens. I'm blanking on it. It's always hard for me to remember which one's which because, admittedly, I was not really socially conscious at the time. I was born in 2002, which is right around when those guys were playing. So I don't remember much about them. And unfortunately not Jamal Lewis either. I was born a little bit too late.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't get to see him play either. I mean, but what I saw from their highlights, man, I can't believe all the talent that running back that Tennessee had in the 90s, especially there towards the end, man. I mean, freaking having Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, and Travis Stevens all on the same team, that's something quite insane, to be honest. But it just shows the dominance that Tennessee had during those times.
Yeah. Well, I guess that'll do it for us tonight here on Tennessee Volunteers Live. Happy to have all of you guys along with us. It was a fun show as always. Lots of news to discuss this week, which is always welcome in the month of February when there is not much going on. It's kind of the dry period. We have, probably 2 or 3 weeks until spring football ramps up. Yes, we did come after a lot of greats. I did not grow up with Peyton Manning and Heath Schuler. I grew up with Nathan Peterman and Justin Worley.
Hey, Tyler Bray was pretty nice though. That was my favorite football player when I first started watching Tennessee play.
Oh, he was fun. Aside from the fact that he injured his thumb and then had that one thing off the field that I forget what exactly happened.
There's 2 things. He threw beer bottles off.
I knew about the beer bottle. That's what it was.
And there apparently, I don't know if there was alcohol involved or not. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but he apparently almost ran over someone at the jet ski.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Georgia had a kicker get arrested for boating under the influence. So
Well, that's not surprising at all.
it happens every now and again. This is from a long time ago. Like, this is Mark Richt era Georgia, not Kirby Smart Georgia. Mark Richt is probably the closest thing to a college football Rick Barnes in the SEC. The upstanding Christian man, but his teams just could never break through and break through the ceiling and get to the national championship. I guess he was only around for 2 college football playoffs when he was at Georgia, but a guy that was a Saints on what was, not a phenomenal, not a team full of phenomenal characters, I guess. And there's been other examples of that. I know there's a particular example in Gainesville, Florida, from about what year was that? 2008.
Yeah, 2008, man. You 40 plus players.
41. Absolutely crazy.
Absolutely insane. And Tim Tebow was leading them all. I guess he was the thing that balanced them all out. A team full of criminals, and you needed a saint out there to shape up the team.
Yeah, it's just amazing, man. Some of the most awful human beings on this planet played for that Florida football program, and yet 2 of the nicest people on planet Earth, in Tim Tebow and Danny Werfel, also played there.
Yeah,
it's crazy how that works.
Yin and yang, man. Everything's got its balance.
I guess it has to. All right, well, that'll do it for us tonight. Again, happy to have all of you guys along with us. If you're new here, please like the video, share the channel with your friends, and subscribe to Tennessee at the voice of college football. You got real model citizen there, Rhonda. We're going to get carried away. We get ourselves in trouble here. But again, we appreciate all of you coming along for the ride with us. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. If you haven't already, gets you close to all the great Tennessee football content that you enjoy here in the offseason. Really helps us out as well if you do that. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. We will talk to you guys again next week.